Hi everyone, welcome back. It's me, Gulvig, and we are going to be talking about this very potent new moon solar eclipse on October 14th, 2023. So welcome back to Be the Whole You. In a moment, we're going to take a look at the tarot below and get some additional information on this. But first, let's take a look at what is actually happening up in the sky. What kind of alignment are we dealing with here? Well, first off the bat, I'm just going to give you a heads up. It is all about relationships with this particular new moon and solar eclipse. And I'm not just talking about intimate relationships. Relationships of all kinds will be affected. But it is all about this reoccurring theme that has come up over and over again for this last year around where does the rights and needs of the individual start and begin versus the rights and needs of the community start and begin. That is a theme that we have revisited over and over again this last year. And what I'm seeing here with this solar eclipse is that is coming to a head. And we might be making some real big decisions in especially the next 6 months, because the solar eclipse, it will last 6 months. Usually a new moon's energy usually lasts like 3 days. But because it's an eclipse, this is going to have much farther reaching influence on our lives. So even the numerology is aligned with this being a theme around relationships. We have the moon at 20 degrees in Libra, and we have the sun at 21 degrees in Libra. Twos are associated with relationships. And then we have the South Node at 25 degrees in Libra. So the South Node is about our past experiences. It is associated with the lessons we've already learned and that perhaps we are bringing into our current reality. And when it's paired up with the number 5, it's also 5 is the number of change, and we have 2 plus 5, which equals 7, which is also a very fortuitous. There's a reason why it's considered the lucky number, right? And then compared with that, and then also the moon at 20 degrees, 2 plus 0, it's a 2. It's about relationships. The sun, 2 plus 1 equals 3, the grand trinity. And I always look at 3s as also being a relationship number, but more about a group dynamic because you have the third party, right? And also what's very interesting is that Libra itself is associated with being very conscientious of relationships. Libras are known about how they navigate relationships. You typically thought of as being somewhat charismatic and diplomatic and usually good communicators. Also, Venus is the planet of Libra, and Venus is associated with wealth and with home and beauty and somewhat of comfort. It's more about Taurus, but because Venus is associated with beauty and comfort, Libra is also associated with that too. And we also have Mercury in Libra. And Mercury is at 17 degrees in Libra, so we are going to have some heightened communication, especially when it comes to how we communicate our needs and desires within how we relate to others. And also because Libra is associated with beauty, if you have any kind of hobbies or if perhaps your profession is associated with communicating through some sort of aesthetic, so art, music, writing, any kind of creative design, any kind of creative communicative work, that is also going to be heightened. So if you're, like, for example, a graphic designer or you're an artist of some sort or a musician, I would this solar eclipse for the next 6 months is going to really help your creative juices flowing, and it's going to, really give you kind of a boost professionally. Or even if you do this as something as just a hobby, you're going to probably have some really wonderful things happen over the next 6 months as a result of maybe some of the inspiration that happens around the solar eclipse. I personally look at solar eclipses as, well, lunar eclipses too, any kind of eclipse. I look at it as being a doorway or a portal. It's a time, when our identity, which is the sun, and our emotional side align. And when this happens, our emotional self, it's almost like it gets to have a sit-down session with our identity self. The sun is associated with our identity. It's like what it is, the type of person that we're moving towards. It's also about our courage, our charisma, and it's also about how we decide to take action. How do we decide to show up in the world? So it's these eclipses, I look at them as a chance where our identity and our emotional and subconscious self get to have a sit down. And they get to reanalyze things, and they get to talk about what's working and what's not, and also how do we feel about our existing identity. And with all of the relationship Libran energy that's going on, we are definitely going to be really focused on how we feel about how we relate to the world around us and to individuals and perhaps even aspects of our lives, such as our job, our home, our health, our body, all of those things. We're going to be taking a look at how is it that I show up in the world? How do I relate to my life in general and to people in my life? And is that working for me? So over the last year, we have had the reoccurring theme over and over and over again over this dynamic between the rights and needs of the individual versus the rights and needs of the collective, of the group, whether that be your close blood relatives, or it be your job, or it be how the politics of the world. So we have been given over and over with these last full moons and new moons over the last year, that has been a common theme, is an invitation from the stars, from the divine, that says we need to reevaluate how we navigate and how we balance the rights and needs of the individual and the community, because we can't ignore either one of those. And if those aren't having a symbiotic, harmonious relationship, then everybody suffers. So we see this again with Mars being at 1 degree in Scorpio. 1 is the number of the individual, and Scorpio is a very deep and subconscious kind of energy. So, and Mars is about passion. It's about, I think it's also about courage and action. It's also about war. So Mars might bring up some intense feelings in this eclipse, especially if we start reanalyzing some of our relationships and noticing that they're one-sided. We might be coming face to face with some resentment that we have, with any kind of bitterness, and the thing to be really conscientious about that is to know that anger doesn't necessarily have to translate into blame. We tend as individuals to compartmentalize our life's experiences into good or bad, and usually we define those things as either being painful or pleasurable. The things that are painful are bad, things that are pleasurable are good. And when things are bad or painful, there is a human instinct, so to speak, a human it's a condition, it's something that just kind of comes with us as being a human, that we then want to assign some sort of meaning or blame to it. It doesn't necessarily have to become blame. It can be, in certain cases, it can just be that things just are the way that they are, and that certain dynamics have been allowed to be in place, that even if they're toxic, that perhaps both sides own some responsibility in that. And perhaps, and for example, like somebody who may be resentful because they always give and give and give, that person allowed that. That's their responsibility to have boundaries. And so, and then that's another thing to question whether or not that person who's the giver is actually selfless, or are they constantly feeling like they're obligated to say yes when they mean no because of a fear of abandonment, or that people won't love them unless they're useful. Those are some really painful things that this solar eclipse is going to invite us to take a look at. And if we are courageous enough to step through that portal and to take the invitation, it could lead us into places where we are more free, where we have relationships that are more harmonious. That might mean that certain relationships might have to go away, or certain relationships are up leveled, and there might be some difficult work, some difficult conversations, but Mercury's at 17 degrees, yo. You are being supremely supported in any kind of difficult things that you might have to do as a result of wanting to take this invitation. And you don't have to. You don't have to take the invitation. If you don't want to go through the difficulty that is going to be required to walk through that door, there is no obligation to take the invitation, and there's no shame in it. You get to choose your own adventure. You get to choose how you want your relationships in life to be. And it's completely your choice, and there's no guilt. So even though there's this opportunity, we also then are supported with the freedom that comes with Saturn being at 0 degrees in Pisces. Saturn is the planet about karma. It's about time, time-bound consciousness. It creates limitation, but limitation not is from like a bad thing. It's more of like we have to have certain confines in order to have a container for life in general. And at 0 degrees in Pisces, Pisces is associated with deeply spiritual connection. And 0 is the cosmic egg. It's new beginnings. It's potential. It's really whatever it is you want it to be. So in trying to decide what the right decision is, the right decision is based upon what you feel will give you the most freedom and what you feel is right for you. And this is why I think one of those things that this whole dynamic in the last year, where we've been cosmically invited to continue this balancing act between the rights of the individual and the community, that right there is it. Like, what is it that works for you? And if you're making decisions based on what is healthiest for you, I guarantee you it will have a ripple effect where it is empowering everyone else around you, even if those around you are inconvenienced temporarily by your decisions. So there may be some pushback with this. You may start to realize that the way that you're relating isn't actually benefiting you, that you're going to need to create new boundaries. You're going to have certain conversations. You might decide that the way you're relating to your career or your job isn't healthy anymore, and you decide to get a new job or start a new career. And there may be people along the sidelines or who are directly a part of this who are going to think that either that you're crazy for making such drastic changes, or they're not going to like it because they're the ones that benefited from the imbalance. Either way, there are folks who may give you a pushback on this. And if that is the case, let them. Just because it's healthy doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be easy. Just because it's healthy doesn't mean it's going to be condoned by others. So this is really an invitation to do what's right for you, and know that if you stay aligned with that, you will then find community and or up-level your relationships to a point where they will be more healthy. And if those relationships are not going to evolve with you, then those are relationships that probably are better off to allow them to be on the sidelines. With that, though, we also have the quincux of Uranus in Taurus at 22 degrees, as well as Jupiter in Taurus at 13 degrees. So all of this that I said, that, you know, there might be some tough stuff. Uranus is about change, and Jupiter is about, it expands anything that it touches, and it also sprinkles in a little bit of luck. So the Taurus energy is saying that the changes that we are implementing are going to affect our real world reality. So work, home, health, you know, tangible things, and that it's going to be, it's that the changes that you are wanting to create, they are being supremely supported. So if there's a little bit of uncertainty with what it is that you are wanting to adjust within how you relate to either your home, your work life, your love life, your friends, family, whatever, that there's a little bit of luck that's being sprinkled in there. So luck is actually on your side on that. And that the thing that might feel like a rub, that might make us kind of scared to do the thing that we need to do, comes with the Chiron that's at 17 degrees in Aries, and the North Node that is at 25 degrees in Aries. The North Node is what it is that we are moving towards. And Chiron is also an astrological alignment that symbolizes the wounded healer. So Chiron is coming in and saying, the things that we are going to be facing in order to implement the changes that we're being asked to implement is going to probably be how we relate to ourselves. And the 12th house, which is what Chiron and the North Node are in Aries, is a deeply spiritual house. It's our connection to spirit. So the way to navigate this is to ask for divine guidance. This is a great time to pray. It's a good time to meditate. It's a good time for any kind of spiritual practice, especially if that practice is focused on who is it that I need to be in order to create the kind of life that I'm meant to have, the kind of life that I deserve, the kind of life that my heart really, really, truly wants. So something that I wrote down with that opposition is I wrote down that there is an increased self-awareness, and that this is asking us to heal ways in which we sabotage ourselves, as well as ways that we abandon ourselves for the sake of someone else or something else. So for example, if you are someone who might be a workaholic, or you just give way too much to your job than what is healthy, that would be a way that we're relating to that, in a way that we are then sacrificing ourselves for something that may not be reciprocal for the amount of energy that we're putting forth. Or the way that, you know, if we have the disease to please, that might be a way that we're abandoning our own desires in order to placate the agenda of other people. All of these are ways in which we might be subconsciously sabotaging ourselves. And when we abandon ourselves, there is no benefit that external circumstances, whether or not that external benefit is in pleasing others or creating less conflict as far as people disagreeing with us, people, you know, having certain people in our lives. There is no benefit externally that will fill the void of abandoning ourselves within. So this is really where the rubber hits the road. Everything that you've done for the last year, all the spiritual growth, all of the analysis and the increased self-awareness, it's coming to a head. And on one hand, we're really, really close. If you feel like you've been doing a lot of spiritual work lately, and you've been doing a lot of growth, but it's not really translating into creating a shift in your external world and improving your circumstances, that horizon is like right around the bend. Like, you are going to be seeing benefits very, very soon. And on the flip side, if you've been resisting making any of these decisions, if you've been resisting doing self-work, then this solar eclipse might feel kind of harsh. So we also have Venus at 5 degrees in Virgo, and that creates a pragmatic change. The only thing to be careful of is being careful of going into judgment. The thing is like, we don't have to create a story, and we don't have to validate we don't have to validate our desires. So if you just feel that a change is necessary, and you just feel it in your gut and your whole system is saying this is what's right, you don't necessarily have to create a story where something is wrong or someone is wrong. You can just do it just because you want to. Woo! Imagine, like, you don't have to validate yourself. You get to say yes to what it is that you want to say yes, and no to what you want to say no to. This solar eclipse has the potential to really increase our freedom. And to do that, it may require us to have a bit of courage. So with that, how can we support ourselves? With all of that being said, let's take a look at the tarot and see, okay, we're going to have courage. Okay. So what does that look like? How can we access that? How do we dig deep to do what needs to be done? Let's take a look. All right, so please set the intention that whatever part of this tarot reading that is really truly meant for you is going to be highlighted. That'll just pop out. I'm going to ask Divine Highest Self, what is it that we need to know or do most to be able to leverage this energy of the solar eclipse on October 14th, 2023 to serve our best and highest good and support our courage into making the healthiest decisions for ourselves that will have a ripple effect to empower freedom and personal responsibility for all. Oh, my friends, the very first card, if we needed a card that was going to say everything's going to be okay, and you know, when you get to the other side of this tunnel, that you are going to have new beginnings, new hope, new fresh start, this would have been the card that I would have said, like, I hope that this is the card that comes up. And I wasn't thinking that, but if I was, this would have been the card that I would have been like, that's the card that I would really like to come up. And it's the Star card. This card is all about the light at the end of the tunnel. This is the card that comes up when we've been through the dark night of the soul and we finally get to the other side. This is the card that comes up typically in a personalized reading when somebody is on the precipice of a new beginning where they're going to find new hope, like a refreshed energy. And what I'm seeing here with the next card that comes up is the King of Wands. And so this fresh vitality is coming from this new sense of confidence and courage that we may not even know like where this is coming from. We're like, what? How? All of a sudden, I just feel a lot more sure of myself. Ride that wave. Don't even question it. Just own it and leverage it, because I mean, we all could use just a little bit more. Usually most of us can use a little bit more confidence and a little bit more surety in life. So like if it's all of a sudden just kind of like popping into your system, you're like, wow, I feel a lot more confident. Ride that wave, honey. Ride it. Like King of Wands. I also see with the King of Wands that part of this new beginning is having more clarity. Even if what is happening and the decisions that are going to need to be made are difficult, it's like we will just like have the certainty of like it's going to be worth it and this is what needs to be done and we're just going to do the thing. Also, the thing too is that what I'm seeing here with the Four of Swords reversed is that we are, that part of what it is that we are rejuvenating from is a phase of burnout. So we're recovering from that. And I think that the time is coming very soon where we are going, yes. So I pulled two more cards about the Four of Swords. We have the Ace of Swords reversed. So the Four of Swords, the burnout, in part has been due to mental loops where we are just, you know, either negative self-talk, lack of clarity, not really sure what the next step is, and just over-analyzing. In fact, you know, what I would probably say is that during this time, this would be a really great time to journal. Get anything that's rattling up here, just get it out of your head. That by itself can create so much clarity, is to just get it out of here and get it on paper, whether or not that's drawing, scribbling, writing, whatever it is, get it out of here and make it something tangible. And what this is turning into, the reason why it's going to be the burnout is going away and we're going to have this refreshed new vitality, is because we're going to know what it is that we're creating. The Eight of Pentacles is about creating new skill sets, new habits, new hobbies, perhaps even a new job. We're going to know what it is that we're working towards. There may have been this kind of vagueness for probably at least last year or so, maybe since 2020, where things have just felt kind of murky. You're not exactly sure where we're going, and all of a sudden something kind of clicks into place and we're like, that's the direction I'm heading. That even if I don't know like the full scope of what's going to happen, I know that I need to head this direction, and it's going to lead me to somewhere where I'm going to have more fulfillment. So the mental loops are ending. We're coming to some more additional clarity. We are finally coming to a place where we're finally rejuvenating from this time of burnout where everything just felt completely overwhelming. The one thing that I would say about this is take it one step at a time. There is no step that is too small. Even a small crawl forward is still forward movement. So with this Eight of Pentacle energy and the Four of Swords, the one thing that I would say is don't take off too much at one time, and break down any kind of goals or intentions or projects that you're working on. Break them up into minute little things that you can do consistently on an everyday basis, even if it's just 5 minutes that you are spending moving ahead towards what it is that you want to do, even if it's something seemingly insignificant. If you're doing that consistently, you're going to see results eventually. So let's not overwhelm ourselves and take on too much. Let's just be aware that where we're still at is we're still somewhat tender from being in this phase of burnout. We are rejuvenating, but let's not push ourselves too hard either. So this is a really, really positive new moon. I've seen some other folks that I guess they're feeling like it's a little bit more scary. And that's not what I'm thinking. That's not what I'm seeing at all. I'm seeing both in the tarot and in the astrology that there is so much promise for really good things to happen. Would love to hear how this solar eclipse is treating you. Feel free to share in the comments below. And I'll be back here in a couple weeks where we're going to take a look at the full moon on the 28th, which is going to be another eclipse. Stay tuned. I can't wait. All right, guys, have a good one, and I'll see you soon.